is important in that respect is that when we talk about emotions, actually tourism always involves emotions. But often the emotions that are instilled in tourists or visitors are actually instilled by big campaigns and branding companies. So when we're thinking about how Italy as a region or as a country is being promoted internationally, well, then you have this big campaigns and all promotional campaigns somehow aim to be emotional and to actually, make people have a certain feeling of connectedness with a certain region. Now, what you are doing with this stories is actually not let people, professionals with this branding campaigns determine emotions, but actually let people who live in the region, let them actually, by telling their stories, instill in tourists certain emotions. And so this is a very different way, and this is also, of course, a way in which those people living in those villages, to a certain extent, can have much more control also over the kind of feelings that they want to evoke in tourists. And to actually relate that to some of those movies, what I found interesting, there were two movies that many tourism scholars or tourism branding scholars would find problematic. And the two movies were there was this one woman who's talking about the horses and how she actually has a place where she teaches people who come there, children, locals, and people from other places, to actually drive a horse in the American way. And so she's also dressed in an American way, like a cowboy. And so, and this related to the story of the young man who has this Anglo-Saxon bar, or this pub, which actually has local elements, but which also has elements that are clearly not local. And to many branding specialists, that would be seen as problematic, because it doesn't fit the stereotypical image that people might have of a region where it's all about villages that haven't changed since they were built. And so, but of course, your stories are showing the reality, and the reality is that people everywhere are dynamic, cultures everywhere are dynamic, and that people everywhere have imaginaries. It's not only the tourists that have imaginaries, it's also the people living in the places that are visited by the tourists that are actually also imagining. And so these are nice examples of people who actually, by staying where they are, bring actually their imaginaries alive. And so they're bringing America to the village, or they bring the Anglo-Saxon pub to the village. And this is beautiful, because it actually shows how we all are somehow very inspired by imaginaries, and how when you visit a region, it's sometimes you are very surprised by the things that you discover, because they don't fit maybe what you have seen in those big promotional campaigns. But you see that regions are much more diversified than what sometimes the tourism brochures want people. When we look at tourism globally, we see in the last 10-15 years that there has been quite a big rise of what is called in the literature experiential tourism, where it is actually all about, it is less about sightseeing, which was more like a traditional way of going to a place and seeing sights, but where it's much more about experiencing a place. And experiencing a place also means that there is an increasing group of tourists, not all tourists of course, but there is an increasing group of tourists that are interested in hearing about how people live in the places that they visit. And so these stories are of course nice examples of how people live in a certain place and how they give shape to their interest, be it professionally or more as a pastime. But what I think is important with these stories, that I think that such stories also have an importance for people themselves and for a region themselves. It's like also a way of document. So I don't know if it's true or not, but and this is important, because when we are talking about authenticity, this is a very tricky concept, because scholars have been trying for many years to define what it is what is it an authentic experience or an authentic story? And actually it's very hard to define, because it's the person who is involved in those interactions. So either the people telling the story or the people receiving the story, those are actually the judges. These are the people who actually judge for themselves whether something they experience or hear is considered to be authentic or not. And so this is not something that we can define from a distance. This is something that happens in these interactions with people. And this is of course the beauty of tourism. The beauty of tourism lies in interactions between people, and stories are very good ways to actually enhance interaction between people. The downside is that we cannot control this, but this is also the beauty. The beauty is that in the personal contact with people, certain stories can provoke very touching emotions in people, and in some people more than in others, because of this history that we all have. And so this is not something that we can predict. And this is also why this kind of story, especially people who have never been to Florence, then most people would of course be most interested in seeing and experiencing the places that they have read about, that they have seen on documentaries, and so these places that are considered important. And this is of course also linked to World Heritage. So Florence, the historical city, is also parts of the historical city are World Heritage. And so this is of course for people who have never been, this is important. It would be the same like people who would go to Paris for the first time and wouldn't see the Eiffel Tower. So this is one aspect. For many people this is important. But of course if people have more time, or if people are returning, then they are actually more open to actually experiencing different types. I actually did research in Bruges, in Belgium, in the historical city of Bruges, on actually the different types of tours that are available within the city. And what we notice is that for international tourists, there's actually not that much diversity. So most of these tours go like